It's time to get rowdy with Rusty this week in wrestling on That Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout.
Hello, it's time once again. Yes, it is. As Blackjack Mulligan would say, the late Blackjack Mulligan, a.k.a. Bobby Jack Wyndham, if you will. Get Mama from the kitchen. It's time once again for That Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout, brought to you by the DJB Productions Network. Danny J back at DJB Productions Network, pushing the buttons and getting us all on the air. And as many of you know that listen to this thriving podcast, we are Deanna Perrazzo's favorite podcast. Anyway, moving right along with the show. We start this week with Paige complaining that the WWE Women and the WWE Women's Tag Team titles are not being used properly. I agree with that, but realistically, nothing in WWE is being used properly. Paige says that the women, I'm paraphrasing, are being used as objects and not to their full potential. She has complained to management, and her complaints have fell on deaf ears. More details as that becomes available. Some sad news. Rubberman Johnny Walker, formerly known as Mr. Wrestling number 2, passed away this week on June the 9th in his home in Honolulu, Hawaii. Mr. Wrestling 2 rose to fame in the southern part of Georgia and Florida and Mid-Atlantic and Jim Crockett Promotions and world class. He basically was a star everywhere he went. He even spent some time in the WWF, but they didn't use him right in the 80s. He had many great feuds with the Masked Superstar, Mr. Wrestling 1 Tim Woods, and most notably Magnum TA in Mid-South days. Magnum said this week, not only have we lost a good man, but I've lost my friend. Rest in peace, Mr. Wrestling number 2. Moving right along, fans returned this week to New Japan Pro Wrestling on June 15th. And now the reason why I bring that up is because most of New Japan's pro wrestling shows are in Japan. They do have a U.S. office based in San Diego now, and they are running the eastern part of the country and some out west as well. But most of their shows are still in Japan. Having said that, Japan is still one of the worst countries for the COVID-19 coronavirus. So I'm not sure that's a good idea. Moving on to the next item, Nigel Mcguinness is the latest cut from the WWE. Supposedly, they're going to bring him back at a later date, so they're calling his departure furloughed. But they also call the departure of my good friend from childhood, Jerry Briscoe, as furloughed, and to the best of my knowledge, they haven't brought him back yet. And now here is my come on man moment of the week. And before I get into this, let me say my mean man, Maniac Mark Lindsay, oh, Rusty, you've got to change with the times. I don't know if I can change that much, Mark. Charlotte Flair, daughter of Ric Flair, wants to wrestle for the WWE Men's Championship. Oh boy, where have we heard this stuff before? Wait a minute, I know where I've heard it. The dead brand known as Impact. Well, as Booker T would say, I've never met Booker T, but he said that was the worst mistake Impact had ever made, having Tessa Blanchard as their Impact World Champion. And so we'll have to see if WWE makes the same mistake. Also in WWE this week, both Paul Heyman was let go as creative executive director of Raw, and Bruce Pritchard is taking Paul's position, and they're combining the creative teams of Raw and SmackDown into one creative team led by Pritchard. And supposedly Paul Heyman will focus on his managerial and advocate role in WWE as Raw's ratings continue to fall. NWA Power regular programming returns January 2021. Until then, you can watch a variety of pre-recorded shows from the NWA on their YouTube channel. The one I like the best is Inside the NWA. This past week, Trevor Murdoch and Joe Galley and Dave Marquez did a tribute show to the late Harley Race. So you might want to check that out. FTR, formerly known as The Revival, is not exclusively under contract with AEW. However, that option is not off the table as long as they say they would be willing to sign, as long as they could get the Japan clause put in their contract like Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho have, in which the FTR could work for AEW in the United States and then continue to work New Japan dates for New Japan or any other promotion in Japan, because Japan pays a lot of money for American wrestlers to go over there and tour in Japan. A lot of the Japan guys are quick and good, but they're small. So when you send big guys from the United States over to Japan, that's a big attraction for the Japan promotions over there. And so that's why a lot of the American wrestlers make a lot of money, and they always have. Moving right along to Danny J's favorite product, MLW, Major League Wrestling. Some real good news for the future of the company here. Alex Hammerstone and Richard Holiday both signed multi-year deals. And Hammerstone even said, "I don't want money, just money, and retire. I want to create a legacy." MLW also signed a multi-year deal with the streaming app called DAZN, DAZONE, which has a lot of MMA programming and boxing stuff. So they're adding wrestling to it, and that might be worth subscribing. Again, it's DAZN, DAZONE, but I think they also spell it DZONE. So I'm unclear on the spelling, but I'm sure you can find it either on your smart TV or your smart TV devices and sign up. No beginning date for MLW on DAZN has been released yet, but it will be coming soon. A new Ric Flair documentary on the WWE Network called Ric Flair: The Final Farewell. Sounds like he died, even though he didn't die. Premieres June 7th on the WWE Network. Moving right along. Hold on one second, having a little trouble out of my computer. Pardon the technical problem. Adam Cole is still in hot water with WWE for going to an AEW party back in January at Tony Khan's house with Britt Baker. No word on if Cole is staying with WWE once his contract expires here in a few months, but most suspect he will go to AEW when his WWE deal is done, not only because his girlfriend is there, but because he can have more creative freedom and only work about 2 to 3 days a week, and most weeks 2 days a week, 1 day to travel and then 1 day for the Dynamite show. And then the third day would be if they have a pay-per-view that week or not. So it's a little bit of a lighter schedule. Plus you have creative freedom and you still get paid really good 6-figure, sometimes 7-figure salaries. Okay. Next item is Total Bellas on the E Network has been signed for its 6th season. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson have said they are wanting a U.S. deal which will allow them to go to New Japan, just like the Revival. So everyone now suspects that Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson will try to end up in AEW. Both of them are friends with Tony Khan. AEW won the ratings again this week. I don't have actual people numbers, but the rating numbers are both shows were down, but AEW was at 0.23. NXT was 0.16, but both companies' ratings continue to fall. Longtime WWF wrestler and AWA wrestler and trainer of Mick Foley and Shane Douglas, Dominic Benucci, had a heart issue this week, but it looks like he will be okay. He is still in the hospital, but recovering. Moving right along. The last issue here is kind of a funny thing. So I will say allegedly, so I don't get myself and Danny J in any trouble by saying this. Tony Khan and AEW management are allegedly, now notice I said it again, allegedly angry at Darby Allin for something Darby Allin did several years ago. It is now coming out that Darby Allin and his supposed girlfriend at the time went out in the woods and had intimate relations to clean it up for this family broadcast. And in the process of having those intimate relations, Darby Allin got hornets or some type of bee family member stings on his private part, allegedly. And then his private Benny J, keep it rolling. I'll get it together in a minute, but Darby Allin, Darby Allin's private part swelled up humongously to an enormous size, and so he had to be taken to the emergency room to get treatment. However, it has now come to light that Darby Allin lied to the TLC producers. TLC, the Learning Channel, produces that show. He lied to the producers and hired a woman off of Craigslist to play his girlfriend so that he could get $800 because he happened to be homeless or very poor at the time. And Tony Khan came out this week and said that that was conduct unbecoming of an AEW contracted performer. Darby Allin has since apologized and admitted that he did that. And if you want to hear Jim Cornette's take about it, search Jim Cornette Experience on YouTube. Jim has 2 podcasts, the Jim Cornette Experience and the Jim Cornette Drive-Thru. It's not on the drive-through, so don't worry about that. Search the Jim Cornette Experience, and you'll hear Jim Cornette's take on it. But, I've been homeless myself. For those of you who don't know me that well at one point, and the rest of the time I've been very poor. But I don't think I'd ever make up a story like that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with this story. The question I have is, are the TLC producers, are they now going to go after Darby Allin for the $800 back? God, only in professional wrestling. And Mark Lindsay, if you're listening to this, Please don't hate me for bringing this up. I tried to talk to Mark about it last night. Mark got real pissed at me. So forgive me, Mark. Forgive me, Danny. But I thought it was a funny issue. Anyway, let me do my programming plug here. Please subscribe to the channel. Subscriptions have been down a bit. Tell your friends to subscribe to the channel because even though you might be watching me on the wrestling part of this channel, there's other wrestling stuff on here. There's Capes Not Included. There's Messing with the McIntyres. There's DJs After Dark. There's a show with former WCW and ECW talent Big Vito and Danny J. They do the Man Cave, which is an adult style program. There's also a debate style program between myself and Mark Lindsay. Assuming that Mark ever uploads the videos, we're about 2 weeks behind on that now, but it's called Point Counterpoint. So the point is, even if you got friends that don't like wrestling like we do, tell your friends there's a lot of other programming that's wrestling and not wrestling on the DJB Productions Network. It's all done with a labor of love, and I promise you, here at the DJB Productions Network, we will never have phony stories about insects stinging our private parts. So until then, everybody, please keep pro wrestling alive, stay safe, and we'll see you here next week on the DJB Productions Network for that Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout. Until then, take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to that Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout. We'll see you at the matches. Goodbye, everybody.